Howdy everyone. So if you just watched the time-lapse video, you watched myself and my wife get this thing flipped around upside down on sawhorses and temporarily put together with Clecos. And it came out fine. Of course, this is a very early stage, obviously, of getting this thing put together and set up. So there's still a lot of flexing, a lot of movement, and there's still a lot of support structure to be put into it. And that, I hope, will help alleviate an issue that I have right at the moment. So again, just Clecoed in place. And this is what I call the good side. This area right here, where the side skin meets with the bottom skin of the center section, this in here is really nice. This will come together no problem. However, on the other side, the side skin has quite a bow to it, and I think this could potentially be a problem. So you can see here this gap. You can see how big that is. At the widest point, this is probably 3/8, maybe even a 1/2 inch. And when I try to get this to go in, you can see what happens. It's not going to play nice. Now, of course, the corner rib goes here, and this ultimately attaches to the corner rib, but that's not going to pull in very nice. I mean, when I push on it like I am now, down here below my hand, the skin is really starting to dent. I've got a picture of this, and I have a picture of the other one, and I'm going to send them both to Vans and see what they think. But I don't know what else I can do at this point because, like I said, I've got everything Clecoed. I've got it completely Clecoed there. I've got it completely Clecoed here, and I've got it Clecoed up here at the front. And I have, of course, I've got every Cleco in across the bottom here, and then on the inside, up underneath the inside, I've got the center section ribs Clecoed to the 706 bulkhead that runs in here. So it's completely Clecoed. I've also tried holding on to the tail and picking up the tail and moving it around and trying to wiggle the fuselage around, try to get the Clecos to take a better set. Maybe that was a problem, which apparently it's not. But I can stand back here and move this tail around, and I don't know if you can see, it's right in here where the skin is bowed out. Even when I pick up the tail and I move this thing around, that part of the skin really doesn't move. So anyway, that's the only hang up that I've got at the moment, but that may fix itself as I continue to work and things continue to align themselves. So another note, I have on the tail section, you have these rivets here along the bottom. There's a rivet in here which needs to be removed. I made a little note here to remove that because that rivet gets shared with the skin here. And this row of rivets for the stringer, for this center fuselage stringer, there's a rivet in here that gets shared with the skin right here. So that rivet that's underneath here, I have to drill it out. And the same on the other side. Those two locations on the other side, those rivets have to be removed. So when you do the tail cone riveting, I left this row of rivets out, but at these locations you have to leave. These two rivets have to be left free, and these two rivets here have to be left out. So I've got 1, 2, and then the other side, 3, 4 rivets that I've got to drill out. And that's it. Everything else went together pretty easily. The side skins, if you've been following some of the things that have been going on the forums and different builder websites, The skins are a little bit of a pain. People have different methods of doing it. Of course, everybody's different and every build is going to be different. But for me, I found it easiest to do this entire row first and work my way forward. It's tedious. It's a little bit of a chore. You really got to work at it. But it comes together. Eventually, it will come together. The other thing that you may have noticed from the time lapse, I had the tail section right side up and I put the longerons on. So I installed the longerons into the tail cone section while it was right side up. And then I set up the sawhorses and flipped it upside down with the longerons already in place. And I did that because I didn't like the idea of having just this side skin here resting on the sawhorse, because I was afraid that this edge would end up curling or buckling. So I went ahead and put the longerons in while it was right side up and then flipped it over as an assembly so that the tail cone would rest on the longerons instead of just the sharp edge here of the skin. And I believe that's it. I believe that's all of the notes that I can think of at the moment. So now at this point, I have to look at the instructions again, but at this point, I'll have to trim back the longeron here. The distance from the end of the longeron to this edge of the skin is supposed to be 3/4 of an inch. I'm guessing I got about 5/8 here, so I'm gonna have to trim off like 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And then I'm gonna probably add a couple of clamps maybe along the length of the fuselage in areas like this where it's just kind of loose. Just put a couple clamps on here just to firm it up a little bit on both sides. And I think besides the trimming here, I think the next step is to do some installation and drilling of armrests. I think that might be the next step, but coming along. Like with everything else, steady as she goes, and all in due time, we'll get there. So I'm going to cut this short, and I'm going to look over the instructions and move on to whatever comes next.